If you are a YouTuber that has more than 20,000 subscribers, or you're someone that's just starting their make money online journey and wants to make their first $1,000, or even if you're someone that's just really close to this man, this is the podcast for you. I've had the privilege to interview my good friend Wiktor Landed, who's currently working at the growth team at Skool.com. He has personally worked with more than 200 creators that have more than 100,000 subscribers, and some of them even have millions of subscribers. I'm talking people like Alex Ramosi, Sam Ovens, Andrew Kirby, Charisma Command, Alex Costa, Jose Zuniga, Hamza, Leon Hendricks, and those are just a few from the list. And in this episode, we have covered so much. It's truly one of those that you keep coming back to again and again. So if you bear with me for the next minute, I'll go over everything we've covered. We started with Wiktor's story because you need to know the story behind this guy. We went over how Wiktor became a full-time employee at Skool.com, which is pretty hard to do. How he got 10 people to internship for him for absolutely free. How you can make money the right and the new way without people hating you. And for YouTubers that don't have the best audience or the best YouTube channel, we even cover how you can make the most amount of money. And oh boy, if you do have a group on Skool.com, we cover the 5 most important tactics for you to reduce your churn. How you can sell anything to anyone, even as a beginner. And at the very end, we covered the most important thing that you can take away from this podcast, in my opinion, which is how he networks with millionaires and billionaires at just 22. So take out a notepad, take out your pen and paper, and take notes, because this is going to be life-changing for you.
You only need to invest 20 to 30 million to be like insanely famous.
What's interesting about your story is that you dropped out at 15.
I think we got to like 100 outreaches per day that are personalized.
One time, location, and financial freedom. And the way to do it is to make money online. So what path would you recommend they take?
Yeah, we do some activities. There was like Disneyland, there was like go-karts and stuff. So we're just connecting with people. We didn't have like a really long agenda.
How would you do a launch to ensure as much hype as possible, and also that the audience doesn't end up hating the creator?
Like the biggest mistake?
Basically, I don't want this to be like a very tactical interview. So I'll give you a brief introduction. I will give you 120 seconds to go over your entire life story, and then we can get into the tactics of stuff, right?
I was born in Polish middle-class family. We didn't lack anything, but I would just say it's like we didn't have also access. That Eastern Europe is not the place that's full of ambition or that has a lot of prosperity to it. So it was pretty hard to find people who are like-minded and who like entrepreneurship. And I would say like at the age of, I was a pretty average kid. At the age of like 11, I started to get into running because of my brother. At the age of 12, I was already working out pretty much every day, and I got better and better. But at the age of 14, I realized that I asked myself a question like, how would that look like if I actually succeed? And the future was not that bright, even if I would be like a really good runner. Those people didn't really have the future, at least I desire. I stumbled upon a book called Millionaire Fastlane by MJ DeMarco, and it really changed my trajectory. I was planning to be like an engineer, and there's nothing wrong with it. I just realized, well, but it looks like this entrepreneurship thing, this doing something online is pretty desirable. And over the next 2 years, I started to learn everything I could, and I think also when you're young, it's just waste a lot of time because you don't know like how life really works and how to get results in anything. I lost a lot of time. At the age of 15, I started to build out some websites for friends. Then at like 16 and something, I got into sales, and I've been doing that for about 2-3 years for different online companies. Started with Polish ones, then to UK, and then to US. That's where I spent the most of my time. And after that, I worked with Andrew Kirby as his growth operator, partner, friend, however you want to call it. And after that, I ended up at Skool, and now I'm helping out with the games. I'm helping out with operations and growth and anything that needs doing.
It's pretty interesting, your story, because you started out so early that you lost a lot of time by the time you were 15.
I would say that's like the biggest gift. I just started out early, and I've wasted so much time on like random stuff and like starting this like fitness business or like all those failures.
You even had a CSGO thing going on, right?
Yeah, it was pretty interesting story because I really wanted to start my own company because I was just a contractor, but I was like, hey, I might as well have something for myself, but I couldn't do it because I was underage, and in Poland you can't do that. So I partnered up with a friend who was able to start a company and also had a little bit of funds, but I had more like things going on. He just had like the money and the age, so we just partnered up together. He really wanted to start a CSGO company. So our deal was I'll get the company, but we're doing the CSGO stuff as well. And he was not that, committed or good or whatever. So I ended up owning a good part of it. And I used to really like the game. So it wasn't like all terrible. I didn't know what I was doing. I lost a lot of time and money, but it was a fun experience. We ended up doing some interesting things, at least like on the Polish scene. It was unprofitable, but at least
That's
we were
funny.
making some money and felt good. And we had some decent players on our team.
What's interesting about your story is that you dropped out at 15. I know a lot about your story because I've done a lot of research, and you were pretty good with studies, and you had like a lot of goodwill built up with your parents, so they wouldn't say anything to you. There would be 15-year-olds watching this that even if they could get good grades, I think if their parents like heard that they want to drop out, I don't think that would ever be the case.
I didn't actually drop out fully. I just got homeschooling, but how homeschooling
Yeah.
works in Poland, at least in my case, is they just kind of like leave you alone, like completely, and you just do like exams in the last week for like the week. So I did finish school and stuff, but it looked like you're just like one day you're going to school, another you're just left alone for next whatever long your school takes. I would say it was pretty easy decision for me, and my parents both are teachers, so they understand the system, and both of them were pretty supportive of my leave because I think the biggest reason is just I was doing really well at school and I had zero problems. You pretty much have the same investment from the standpoint of like time. You have the same output, I would say, for like you have the degree or whatever, but the investment just it goes from like whatever is like 9-10 months of the year to like a week of the year and like 2 weeks of prep for those exams. So it's just I just explained that to them, which is like you get the same output for 100 of the input.
That's pretty cool. I got my younger brother to drop out, and like I live in an Indian household, so the reason I wasn't able to drop out in school and I only got my younger brother to drop out is because even like now I have a lot of proof that okay, now I'm taking care of the family and doing all the stuff. So now I have proof. So now he can basically follow my footsteps. I directly want to go into Skool now because that's the most recent thing you've been doing. And I think that's the thing that excites you the most. So tell me, like, how did you get here? How did you start with Skool? How did you first come across it, and how things are going right now?
First is I came across Skool when I think it was like 3.5 years ago, thereabouts, maybe like 3 years ago. Andrew Carey, he just quit his YouTube channel, his offer. He went on a vacation, but right around that time, he started a small community. I've seen a community post on YouTube, and I clicked on the link. I wrote what I was doing, which I was a sales rep back then, and I joined his community. I think that was like 3-4 months late, 3-4 weeks later. I got the email. I was like, well, I might as well check it out. I looked at it and I was like, that's coincidentally a company of Samoans who I used to watch before. That's amazing. It was only like 20-30 of us, and it was pretty cool. The platform was not as built out yet as it is now. It was a while back, but it had a fun vibe to it. And I started to become like a real participant. I checked it every day after work, and I really enjoyed it. And I became like a really active member. I've created posts. I've made a lot of friendships to this day. That was like the start of it. And then I would say like for the next 9 months, I was just really enjoying the community. I was a power user of this community. And then Andrew needed some help with some stuff, so he reached out to me. We worked on some random projects he needed help with. We partnered up, at least at the start. We were just working on those on the mastermind, and then we had an offer for YouTube and different things. And after quite a while, Sam reached out to Andrew to find creators to grow Skool. First, Sam contracted Andrew to help out, and Andrew needed more help because this was a big project, like a real big project. You've seen part of it, and we brought in more than like 400 creators with 100,000 subscribers over just like 6 months, which was quite a feat, and it was definitely not easy. We had to like really use a lot of our skills and connections to get it done. But right after Andrew got hired, about a month later, I got introduced to Sam, and we hopped on a call. And after I think 30-40 minutes, I was part of Skool. So
pretty cool. In terms of like growing that community, I don't think people realize how big it is, because the threshold is like 100,000 subscribers only, but you have people that have millions of subscribers. In my personal opinion, I think the biggest needle mover was the interview with Film Booth. But what are other things that you did to like get creators in?
You are spot on that, which is the Film Booth interview really got a lot of momentum. So what we did, actually, we tried to reverse engineer like what we actually did that work. Which first, we got few key players at the start, which mean, and we did done for you for the first few people. So we got case studies, right? So first the case study, and then key players from that case study. So first was Hamza, and then was few of our friends like Leon, like Ed, like a lot of big creators, and that really seeded that. After that, we got Ed interview, but it didn't go. I would say it got us like 50 to 100 people, still pretty good, but it wasn't the moment we wanted. Next is we created an amazing lead magnet, which was our course and how we positioned it, and then we had an idea around doing outbound very well. This is actually quite a proprietary idea for in the creator economy, which is that we just had our salaries. We had no means to support a team or whatever through selling or any form of commerce. So we came up with a way like what is valuable that we can give to people that they will work for us. And we were just like, well, our case studies, our knowledge, and our time. I mean, that's like three things we had and we can give out a little bit of money. I would say like even from our salaries, we can sacrifice a little bit because they were pretty good. We created a post in Synthesizer Skool, which is the community where me and Andrew connected, and we already had a few thousand people back then. We were just like, hey, a free internship is opening for 10 people to help us with outreaching to creators. And we just created a very nicely written post on how to...
I remember that.
On why you should join, what will be the benefits. And we were very upfront on the exchange of that will be happening. And like, you can do it in 10 hours per week. We don't require full time. It's just like we're looking for interns. And it was one of our best ideas in that business, because first of all, we got a lot of people to just get started with entrepreneurship, which is pretty sick, and like see what's behind the curtains and be involved. Quite a lot of people we still work with this day. At least they are working in that economy, and that got them started. To like see, I'm speaking with Andrew Kirby every day. That's unreal. That was huge. And also we get so much like free labor that enabled us to scale our outbounds to, I think we got to like 100 outreaches per day that are personalized, which in the market that like we also had a very detailed calculator on what type of people we actually want to work with. And we assessed that like people who we actually want to work with is about 1,600 leads. So to reach out to like 100 per day. 1,600 of educational experts, big enough with audience that cares about those people enough. So if they have all four of those things, we were finding a lot of the lead scraping services and also a lot of softwares that were essential. And we had like a master sheet with all the YouTubers we could find that were educational. It's like the first qualification. And then we're just check marking, okay, are they expert enough? Well, somebody who's like, a year into fitness is not expert enough. Somebody who's 20 years, well, it's a huge difference. So we're just like checking them, and it's always a spectrum, right? So we wanted to have the highest numbers, and we find like our top 100. So we're just hiring those 100, but the rest is just a bonus, right? We also got a list from Sam, which really helped. Like his dream creators. We got a decent chunk of them.
What would be real sauce is like, what are the exact websites or lead scrapers you use to like get YouTubers? Because that's something like I'm still trying to like dial in.
We're not looking for the one thing Like we're not looking for just one place. We had a master sheet and we had one person who was just responsible for finding the leads. And then we had like 4 people responsible for leads. And a lot of it, honestly, was just YouTube. It's just like, okay, it's fine 20 today. It's fine 50 today. And that was our biggest bottleneck actually to outreach, was not outreach or copy or whatever. It's finding the right people. So I would say there's no silver bullet. I would say it's like probably 1,000 of them came from just YouTube search and just grinding.
Yeah, so like a lot of hours. That's really good to know, because I do know one of the people that joined that, like as an intern that were working for you. And he reached out to me before he started working with you guys. And now he's like basically doing that stuff. So that made me really happy, because when he texted me, I wasn't directly able to help him, because like I could place him as a video editor at the time, but he didn't have the video editing skills. So I was like so happy that finally someone helped him. Now we just talked about a person you guys helped as an intern, but there would be a lot of people watching this podcast that are starting out but don't know where, like, what to do, what path they should follow, and they really don't have any skills. All they've decided is that they want time, location, and financial freedom, and the way to do it is to make money online. So what path would you recommend they take to make their first $1,000?
First thing I would say is realize it is possible. Really go forward with it. But that's, and like really think in at least like a 2 to 3 year time span, you can definitely do it. Like I can say there's so much demand in this market for good people, as you know, it's insane. So that's first. Second is, once you actually decide that it is possible and you're going to commit to it for 2 to 3 years without seeing almost any results to it, and probably you will sooner, but if you just commit for some time, that's huge. And then after that, just commit to some form of solving some problem for some type of a person. And usually the best thing to do is not to have a business, but to work with someone who you trust, who you respect, 100%. And get the skills. And I would say don't even go into the growth operator, whatever route it is, because you just don't have the skills. It's actually pretty hard to get people to give you money as a business, but having a job, pretty easy. And I can say like any form of accounting, any form of copywriting, any form of basic editing, any form of social media management, those jobs are not that hard. And once you get this job, the other question is, how do you progress? But I would say making $1,000, just get a job. You will learn a lot. Ideally, work for somebody who's a little bit more established, but still has this entrepreneurship vibe, so that you can progress faster and go from, bottom to not bottom, to get yourself a little bit further.
That's pretty unconventional advice. Like, people usually say, oh, start my business, and then here's my course, and you basically tell them to get a job. So I really completely agree, because that's how I started out. Like, I did not have the skills to start a business, so I grew team pages, and that served as proof for clients to work with me. But like, then I got jobs, and that's how I progressed in my life as well. So I completely like have your back on that.
I would add to it as well, it's start jobs, especially that are revenue generating in some way. Like sales is just amazing, especially like if I would go back, I would probably do kind of the same thing, just faster. Start with appointment setting, then become a closer, then if you can, like try to becoming a manager if that's what business needs, and really try to nail it and do just a lot of volume, and whatever you do, try to become like the best at it. And you don't need to, the moment you decide that like you are successful, at least like in my book, you kind of are, like you are, all humans problems are, no, almost all human problems are in their mind. If you have like what to eat, what to drink, and like a roof over your head, you're mostly good, or your struggles are in your head. So if you just think long term, probably getting the skills is what you will enable you to later start your own business, later to be persuasive, to become a leader to other people. And a lot of the jobs really provide that. Yeah, even if you want to really progress, just skills and of marketing and sales and becoming a high performer in any position you find yourself will serve you. Yeah, what I would say is having a job can really change how you perceive opportunities. I remember when I was finishing up with like the websites and random stuff I was doing. I got my first job as an appointment setter, and it wasn't hard. I completely didn't know what I was doing. However, it was a course inside of this company, and I went through it a few times. And also, there were calls that I could listen to from other closers that were doing very well, from other setters, and there was a leaderboard, and I could really see myself like progressing with it. I was the bottom, and then 2 months later, I was not the bottom. There was somebody else. So seeing that progression really can motivate you, and also whatever happens, I had a skill of appointment setting. So whatever happens, I can pick up the phone, and I know if I call 10,000 people, I will make some money. And if I'm if I'm committed enough, I can do it relatively fast. Because most people believe they can only do like whatever 50 to 100 calls. I can do more. All I need is determination.
Definitely, like the soft side of things when it comes to business, I think matters more, like the mindset that you have more than the tactics. Because let's talk about the love of the game now, because I think this is the perfect segue. Everyone at Skool really seems to be aligned with what they're doing. I think it has a grand vision. Getting 1 billion people on the platform, it's a pretty grand vision. And why would you not want to be a part of that? One question would be, how has Skool fostered such a culture where every single person in the team literally just wants to be there all the time? Taking days off is like, you wouldn't want to do that kind of thing.
Well, Skool is a community platform, which really helps. Like if you would be creating like a Loom or whatever other company, it probably would be harder. But first, fostering that, and second, we have very high standards for the people that we hire. We have a very small team. Every person has a lot of responsibility to bring to the table. We have very fun team days. It's probably a part of it. Yeah, I would say the leadership is just very good. Daniel and Sam Sam is an experienced leader, so he knows how to do those things. But we have I would say 90% of it is just getting the right people. It's not like setting the culture as much as just getting the people who like the platform. Most of our non-engineering team, just like myself, it's like a pattern with a lot of our employees. They start by being just a very active user, and they really like the platform. They get on like the top of the leaderboard, and then they join the team. That's like the final leaderboard. So that's whole operations team went through that ascension.
Cool. I think the team is 27 people or 24 or something like
thereabouts, yeah.
Yeah. What do you guys do on the team days? I'm pretty curious.
Mostly it's just hanging out. Yeah, we do some activities. There was like Disneyland, there was like go-karts and stuff. So we're just connecting with people. We didn't have like a really long agenda. You're trying to understand people you're working with, what they're working on, and mostly just having fun.
So team days are in person, right?
Yes, that's
per month.
Yeah, that's a few per year. It's like 3-4 per year.
Okay, I know Nivas is on the team, and he doesn't get to join the team meetings in person.
Unfortunately, well, he's working on it. If he could, he would. So
I don't think you could get the visa. It's pretty hard to get the US visa.
Yeah, he's working on it.
I was about to go to the US, and the only reason I couldn't, because like I couldn't get a US visa to work, especially because I did not go to college. That reduces my chance and basically makes it 0. Let's talk more about Skool now. So you've helped like with growth operating. I hate the term because it's so saturated and every 15-year-old says it. You've helped 400 creators basically get on Skool and make money. And you guys have a pretty in-depth process. So I've been through the course. It's first one is offer. Then we have sales page. Then I think it is the launch, and then it's the product, right?
Yeah, thereabouts.
Walk me through each one of them. Like, how would you create the perfect offer? How would you create the perfect VSL? I think the VSL one would be pretty in depth. Like, I don't think you'd have time for that. A big burning question I have right now: how would you do a launch to ensure as much hype as possible, and also that the audience doesn't end up hating the creator? And how do you build the best product?
First of all, this protocol that we created, it is good, but I think we could definitely, with the learnings, we could definitely improve it. When we were, I remember when we were going through creating that and everything, we were strapped for time. I was crazy busy. Andrew was crazy busy. I wouldn't say it's like and their bio. I think it's very good. You got a lot of people, a lot of results. And from 400 of them, I would say about 120 to 150 actually launched it. So I would say pretty high activation rate. In terms of the course itself, I think if I would do it differently now, I would pretty much simplify a lot of it, and that would enable way more of the creators to actually do things. From my learnings about how to create info products, I would say my most recent learnings is how simple and how actionable and things need to be. And I remember even our course was very actionable. They were like breaking down by days. There was no bullshit, but I think we could have even cut it more. For the offer, I would say like the biggest mistake was just choosing something their niche didn't want, their audience didn't want. And second is just having unrealistic expectations of how many sales they can actually do. Because a lot of those creators weren't as experts, or their audience didn't care enough. For example, short form audiences, they were just not as valuable. I remember there was one guy who had a launch and he had like 1.2 million followers on TikTok. Amazing guy, self-improvement, expert, whatever, just on TikTok. And he made, I think, 9K. I was like, it's pretty odd. Like we were thinking, and he was like thinking that's like 60K or whatever, right? Or even like 100. I remember he was mentioning it to us, but he made like just a few grand, which I'm not saying is like bad. I mean, it's still money. It was MRR, so he can retain some of that. It's amazing. He could be an opponent. But so to make an offer, most of it, honestly, was just niching down and finding something that people really wanted. Finding product market fit by doing small launches, like beta launches, to using either the community post or the Instagram story or whatever, and just testing the headlines, testing the angles until you find something that's get disproportionate amount of traffic, disproportionate amount of interest, and just doubling down on that. And I would say that's the only like edge that I can give you. The rest is just go to Alex Hermosi's book. It's pretty amazing. But that's really that like beta launches. That's what enabled a lot of those creators to like launch without betting all their brand about it. They're just not overcommitting. Bring it to a second point, which is like if you don't have a VSL, if you don't have a sales page, you don't need it. Like for the first sales to find the spark market fit or some part of it, because it's a spectrum. It's not 0 1. So you don't have it or you do have it. It's like how much do you have it? How much people want it? You don't need it. You do need it once you scale things up, once you find something that works. But for the most part, you're just good. And I highly recommend also hopping on phone with a lot of your audience, at least like 10, 20 people, selling them over the phone, even cheap stuff, and you will learn so much about your audience that the next thing you launch will make you disproportionate amount. And yeah, in terms of VSL, it's pretty like we can go in length into VSLs. Like there's so many types, so many styles, so many. But I would say simply is just some form of a headline, some form of a call out. Usually the ones we do are like a desire based. They're just simple as desire or some form of pain. It's like if it's a market that's not really that has a lot of problems, that people who are like the pain type driven work better. If somebody who's like a little bit more affluent, a little bit like make money, but like sell real estate or whatever, do a little bit more desired based. Next is some form of case study. I like to put it up as like, there's a headline and like what makes us qualified to do that. Or like for B2B and like for B2C is some form of a, what makes us say such crazy promises, or like what is our track record? And then some form of a mechanism, which is a simultaneous explanation what everything in the past has failed and why it will be different, which is, well, the answer to the question is like, what have they done before? And why it will be different. So like maybe you've tried intermittent fasting or some form of restrictive diets or some form of running on a treadmill or weights, but we realized it is not working because of X, Y, and Z and X, Y, and Z. And it is different because we do benefit and benefit and benefit. So it's like the simple 10 and the simple outline, and then the CTA, and then a little bit of tie back at the end with either more case studies or some form of a 2 option, which is like you now have 2 options. You can stay where you're at and do whatever, or you can enroll and then you just present the offer. So that's like the VSL. But most creators, I recommend at least selling your first 10, 20, 30 packages or offers over the phone. So you learn a lot.
like I am helping creators monetize. So one of them, what we did 30 market research calls to really dial in one core desire. That's what we did. And I think what we found was pretty concrete. So that's why we are building out the VSLs and everything. Do you think that would be a good approach? Or do you think we should still like do calls and do that stuff? Because the entire VSL is like done on paper. We just have to record it. So like it's no big deal at this point.
Well, if you already have it, you might as well try it.
Yeah.
That's what I would say. But we found that if you just take sales calls and like all things being equal, the same offer, the same traffic, the same product, all of it, and if you just take sales calls, you will make 3 to 8 times more. So, and we have pretty decent data to back it up. It just takes time and complexity, and it's not easy. But if you can do it, that's a huge business opportunity.
The guy that I'm talking about right now, he's pretty busy.
Yeah.
Like
it's hard to get a creator to do that. Like he's a creator. But if you can do that, you make on average way more money. Like 3 to 8K is quite a lot. I mean, 8K is like on the extreme case, but I would say I'm confident to say 3x for most situations. On the edge cases is like if they can't make money either way, if they're not an expert or short form audience, or those people have no buying power.
Completely agree with the short form. Like we tried it with Hamza, like millions and millions of views, but not a lot of people ended up buying. But yeah, you can go and talk about the launch because that's what the stage I am right now, and it's a pretty burning question.
I would say there are two parts of a launch. First is like at least the stage you will be at, which is first is like the logistics of it, which is like when do you launch, how do you launch. That is just be extremely diligent about every detail. We had such coordination with a lot of this stuff and like assigned people. It's just project management skills, and if you can master that, that's huge value add, right? Just keeping everybody accountable, it's like nothing is screwed up. That's huge. Second is in terms of actual work. I can tell you what we did with Jose Zoniega, the guy with combined 10 million subscribers and stuff. We've done some other launches, but this one's like the most recent at least. And so first is we collected all the assets that he has in terms of emailing list, SMS list, like his YouTube channel, everything. And we just coordinated launch there, which is the longer you can hype up something, the better. The minute we started working with him, we announced something. That something is coming, some form of a hype. And then we just kind of a direction. And we're also trying to figure out in the process. So it's like the minute we started working with you, we announced something. That was like part of the deal. Because that's also like such a small commitment to a creator. But then we can also attach identity to it from like the client success perspective. Like, hey, now you're a monetized creator. Now you're like this first step into your creator freedom. And especially if you get them to do it on a few platforms, they're really committed. They have to launch. That's the biggest thing that's holding creators. They actually haven't tried. If they would try something, they would make some money. So that's first. Second is the launch strategy and figuring out like what you will sell. So then it's like you create those pools, you hop on a phone, and then I like to mention to people what I'm kind of, at least for the avatar and what the promise will be, not the mechanism necessarily as early. Just mention them, hey, I'm building something for beginners to make their first, whatever, $10,000 per month, whatever, who's excited, or would you be interested in it? What are the questions you have about it? And you can really try to build like a little bit of a community about it, a little bit of hype about it. Again, the sooner the better. The last 14 days, I would say, is the most important. Some people say 30. I mean, 14 is just enough. You just really are using email, SMS, probably 5 to 6 times per week. We did daily because we just had the bandwidth and stuff, but you just hype it up on the day, you drop it. Of course, you have the funnels and the videos and whatever done. That's what we did. And then at the end, we also did a squeeze sequence. And how it usually works with revenue is in terms of percentages of sales is in the first 4 hours to 5 hours, you get 20 to 30% of the revenue into 20. In the first 24, you get 50. And then in the next, however long your card is open, next 5-6 days, you get 20. And then the last squeeze emails bring the rest, which is I would say 40% in the first 24 hours, 20% in the next 5-6 days, and then there's 40 in the last day. So
you do close
power
support
distributed
as well. What exactly you do in the 14 days? what are the types of posts you make? So when Jose launched, was there any backlash? And if not, how did you guys make sure to avoid it?
Well, there's always some backlash if you sell anything. Like you can be, Taylor Swift, and someone will, put the thing in the eye, and they will hate them. So you can't avoid it completely. What you can do is try to mitigate it, which is first, is launch something people actually want and something that's like on brand for you. Like for example, if I would start selling watches, that would be pretty weird. I don't care about like watches, but there's some people who do, and more power to them. If I would be selling something, that would probably be like something simplistic, something about like high tech, or something about info or being productive. That makes sense. So that's huge. It's pretty huge, because sometimes those brands give you really good deals. Second is try to listen to your audience as much as possible. Third is you don't want to be completely focusing on selling all the time. Like just do those launches, but you can't do them all the time. You can do them maybe twice, 3 times per year. And then you can do evergreen sales, but don't mention it everywhere, and try to build up this goodwill. Especially if you do ads, you're fine with not mentioning that much of it, at least in the organic content. You can do ads, and ads are like this right hooks, right?
Exactly.
Or like this asking for money. Package it in a way that feels premium, and that people really want to be part of, and make a good product. I would say this is the biggest thing. Once people actually are joining it, have good customer success experience, customer success journey, the activation reports outlined, the implementation plans, make things as simple and as actionable as possible.
I really like the ads thing, where you only give value in your organic content, so you get basically zero backlash, and you do all the asking with the ads. So
still get the backlash on the ads, but if you're selling, you're withdrawing with a goodwill. It's just nature of business. You can look up some of the Alex's ads right now, and Alex has a great brand as far as I'm concerned. And a lot of the comments are like, scam, who is this guy, or whatever, right? Like a lot of them. Some part of it, you just have to listen to feedback from customers, not from interest or whatever that is.
What would be the exact things you would be posting 14 days before the launch? What I'm thinking is, I'll just give it to you, like value posts that are related to a problem that we're solving inside of the actual product. And then we would basically build up a wait list of people. So at the end, we could give them like, hey, if you want to join this, it's a paid thing that I'm launching. You can join this. But before that, we just put a lot of value. And we do that for 14 days straight. Is that a good strategy, or what do you think we should do?
I mean, the biggest thing you want to do is sell them on a mechanism and get them to start taking action on it. So whatever your mechanism is, which is like, in our case, it was like become a user-generated content UGC creator, right? Or become in other launches I've been part of, is like become a YouTuber or improve your script writing. So like different levels of becoming a YouTuber. That's one. Sell them on a mechanism. That's 80-20. And then how do you do that? Well, start by them already taking action on a mechanism, putting things in perspective. In one of the offers I was consulting with, it was just like a BizOp, right? Just helping people make money with starting your own coaching business, coaches teaching coaches. And what we did was really crucial for sales goals. Anybody pretty much who signed up for email like newsletter, like email newsletter software, or they start a free trial, like they set up their Calendly, they set up their email domain. If you ask them a question, they say they have it, the close rate was way higher. Get them to actually start taking action. And that's also a caveat. That's why you want to give away a lot of your sauce or whatever. And the more you get people to take action on the things you want them to do, like they will naturally come to you. And that's also an argument against keeping any information hidden. It's like,
completely agree. I think people only buy when they have complete confidence and clarity. And they only get clarity when they know exactly how you're teaching that. Like, what's your process exactly, step by step. And without that, like, it's kind of up in the air, so they don't really buy your stuff. And if you're truly an expert, you can give everything away and they still come to you. Like, I know Alex has people coming to him. Like, he told the story, people are begging me to sell something. They're begging me to send their money to me. So
Yeah. You can definitely go wrong with it as well. Just, like if you need money, sell. I mean, and I have friends who are like, I'm like Alex Hermosi, but I am not selling anything, but they have only like, 50 or like 100K in the bank. And I'm not saying it's bad. I'm just saying like they could really use the money. And that's what they actually should do. What I would say is like, there's nothing wrong with value post inherently. What I would say is like, at least in my opinion, I could be wrong, which is like value is created when somebody actually takes action. Like if I told you that you should exercise 5 times per week or like 3 to 5 times per week, eat less than you burn more calories, and actually stick to your whatever routine you have, you will do well in the gym. But that's too basic of a routine to actually follow, at least for most people. But if you actually did it and that was the first thing you have, that was a lot of value. I don't think most content is actually valuable. It's just interesting. It gets interest, but it doesn't deliver results. And value is only created when like somebody changes their behavior. Most people are just saying words to get more interest and to get people intrigued enough they will buy, but they're not actually trying to change behavior. If they would, their posts and their speech would be different, would be more actionable, would be more implementable, would be less trying to get attention, more trying to get results.
action, yeah. Once you watch a video and by the end of it, you get all the action items, but you still don't do anything. You basically learn nothing. With all
That's
the
why I
YouTube
said
videos
I wasted so much time when I was younger. I remember I was just like watching all of it and I was like, oh, where do I start? And the answer was I should start with anything. Because it was actually a waste of time, which is one of the most painful things you can do to yourself and to other people.
That's why all the videos that like on YouTube right now, a video on churn is like being edited, so it's gonna be posted before this podcast goes out. Every single tactic that I've given has an action item below it, so people can truly like implement it just right there and then.
Yeah, and I think also it attracts people who are serious. I like stories. I think stories really work. Like if I am serious about the topic, I want a fucking story. I just want what to do. And also if you really implement fast, you also seem really smart. And also you are actually smart.
Yep.
Like because your rate of implementation is so short that you just are progressing so fast. I remember when I had this sales manager and he was saying like, I've met a lot of people who have 20 years of working at the job, but 2 years of experience, which is they had just the same 2 years looped in 10 times over and over, and they didn't really learn lessons of year 3, year 4, year 5, year 10. They were just learned the lessons of a junior person, and they just got those skills and it only got them so far. That's why they're not progressing. That's why whatever you hear, like stop the video, take the whatever, and just take the actions. That's why a while ago I stopped watching most of the things, whatever, and I just like was like the time of implementing, because I was like, okay, I know a lot, so I can do a lot. It's like, let me write those things and let me like exhaust my ideas before I come back again for more ideas, right? It's like the time of implementing and the time of getting more ideas. I was like, I don't need more ideas. I just need more time for implementing. So why am I kind of like, again, wasting time? Because like if you're taking an idea and you're not doing anything with it ever, you could have just, watched Netflix, just chill. Yeah, so that's why I stopped like listening or reading to anything until I'm stuck. In most cases, I don't need more info. I just need to like really dig into myself and do like first principle analysis. Like, just like what are the things I believe to be true to solve it. And then usually it's not even a YouTube video or whatever. It's usually a smart friend. And I just like tell him my inputs and the outputs I want. And then they tell me what to do.
That's cool. I think that's something that I'm looking to do myself more. Like, I could truly feel like I know more than I should. For that reason, my potential is much more than I am at right now. So if I just implement a lot more without turning off YouTube, which I've done, or like not watching any other content right now, like I will get closer to potential. And once I am there, like I probably consume more, get more ideas.
Yeah, and what you also realize is the better you get at something, and definitely I'm not saying I am at this level, but I've definitely realized in some areas of my life when I got like really good at something, you realize that you have enough like resources and like problem solving that you just figure out the next step yourself, and that's how actually you progress in something. Like there's no master in the world at anything that got it by following a guide or a course. They had to figure out themselves, like the guide or a course or step by step or YouTube video. I think it can get you from like 0 to 1 to start doing something, or from like 1 to 3. But to really get to from like 8 to 9, and from 9 to like 9.5, and then 9.9, it's really it's like self-discovery and like self-problem solving, because then you actually need to innovate. That's what it takes for you to remove the needle. So I would say like maybe you don't need to come back to it, at least with the things you want to master. With things like, you just want to go from 0 to 1, you definitely can.
Yeah.
Like for example, fitness. I'm pretty decent shape, but I'm no fitness influencer. I don't need to master it, at least not anytime soon.
You'll get there.
So I definitely go to YouTube. But with the things like the churn or whatever, I'm definitely not the master to it or anything. But there's a lot of problem solving that can be done from conversations, from self-study, from observation, and from like the intuition or whatever you want to call it.
It's really interesting that you mentioned that, because my framework for learning things is basically find a person that has done it and achieved mastery, and then see what they're recommending, or find a course they have or book they have, consume it, and then just start doing stuff. So with this podcast, for example, I didn't just like start it randomly. I messaged you like, hey, do you want to be the first guest? Then I found the person that I really look up to when it comes to podcasts. So it's Danny Miranda. And I found his course. I took his course. And from there, like, I now basically know the 80%. Now I just have to get in my 100 reps, like 100 episodes, to get really, really good at it.
And what you also realize is most of the skills are not. It's just like a lot of things in life are easy to do, hard to master, right? It's like to hop on a sales call, pretty easy. Like to close a sale, it's not that hard. Like you hop on 10, 20 calls, you will get some money in your pocket. But to actually master it, that's like 10,000 hours or like 10,000 reps, or whatever the definition is. I think it's like more like 10,000 iterations and 10,000 like being applied, applying yourself to it. Yeah, a lot of things is like it's easy to do, like easy to start your own community, easy to start a business. And also what's funny is when you like really level up, Alex Becker had this interesting post, which is 13 years ago when I started my business, I made one of my first like deals. I wrote an email to an emailing list with my offer, and some of them bought. 13 years later, I'm writing an email list to my emailing list, and I've made a couple $1 million, right? It's just you do the same things, but you do them so substantially better, and also the other surrounding conditions around you are so substantially better that the outcomes are different, to say the least. Same with like writing books or doing sales calls or doing any form of marketing, right? It's like, well, with marketing, you probably will be writing something in 10, 20 years, but your writing will be so substantially better that the results will be different.
The last few things you need to do, like for example, to look good, you could wear a good shirt and like wear a good pant, but to look really, really good, you get it tailored. You have a collar that's stiff, that like really hugs your neck. And those last few tweaks are what really takes you from 99 to 100. And those are the hardest things to do. But if you're like competing at the top, that's what it takes to like get mastery.
The same for like a lot of things. I really love writing. Enjoy doing it in my free time.
We'll get into
especially like grappling with some like ideas, right? There's like some thesis I want to prove, and I try to like disprove it myself, right? That's like the most fun, and I don't share it most of the time. It's mostly for just organizing my ideas, and sometimes it's valuable and I share it with friends. And most of the value of in writing is in like rewriting and getting another another iteration, and you have like a sentence, and you can try to like break it down, especially are you using the right words in the right order, in the right sequence, and are you using the right analogy, and is it even the right place to use it? That's where actually most of the gains happen in like the well-written essay or an article or a book or whatever, is in rewriting and polishing and polishing and polishing. And the same thing like the process of mastery, right? But there's no book that will teach you that. The book is just what I told you, is just, work on it.
You mentioned that you got this idea from Alex Becker. What are some ideas that you've taken from Becker that have changed your life? And what are other people that you kind of look up to that are your heroes?
Well, Heroes is a pretty high bar. What I would say is I haven't watched Becker's, I think, in like more than a year. There were a few videos that I really liked, but I wouldn't say I learned things. I mean, I did learn the things, but it was not a new information. It just gave me conviction into doing the things I'm doing are the right things.
Yeah, it validated your thoughts, existing thoughts.
Yeah, exactly. Which that was most of this value. Like the ideas are pretty. They were quite intuitive to me. It just, especially when you're starting out, it's not easy to do things that are like, don't go to university, just do this business stuff. And especially when you're starting out, you don't have many friends, you don't have a perfect proof that it actually works. To even start to doubt yourself. That's why those mindset videos are the most useful. But I would say their usefulness drops the more you get into it. But then if you like deviate from your standards, it can get you back. Just, I think, incredible. Yeah, I think he had his phase of when his business was, in going up, but he didn't know how up it will go. That it's also cool to see like he was creating those videos and then he sold the company for more than 9 figures. So
you didn't answer the question, heroes.
As I have people who I think I learned a lot from, which is first, probably that would be like the Warren Buffett and Charlie Munger. They're like, I think I've listened to like hundreds of hours of. Second is like Jordan Peterson. I've read a decent amount of philosophy because of him. A lot of old marketers. I wouldn't say heroes. I just learned a lot from them. And
I agree.
Yeah,
heroes is kind of like too big a word.
Yeah, heroes is somebody who like learned how to live your life. I don't know.
Yeah.
I'm curious, what's your definition of hero?
It's like someone you look up to, and I'm not I'm not sure if I have like someone like that in my life. So I completely understand. Like I wouldn't put anyone on a pedestal like that, if that makes sense.
Yeah, probably a mentor is a better word. Yeah, or like a thought leader that you respect. So for that, Naval would be a good chunk of it. Of course, I've learned a lot from my friends, like from my friends from my sales career. I learned from Andrew. I learned from Sam. I learned from Alex. Not saying we're like friends or whatever, but I definitely respect their ideas, and I think a lot of them are valid.
Pretty cool. Let's talk more about Skool. So these are again questions that I have in my own life. So that's why I'm asking, because I truly want to ask questions that I'm curious about. What would you do in terms of a YouTuber that has, let's say, 200K subscribers? Their audience isn't very responsive. They don't have a lot of buying power. Like, Steve Hon, I don't know how to say his name. Life engineer.
The life engineer, yep.
Yeah. So he has a pretty powerful audience in terms of buying power because he's targeting tech people that want jobs or already have jobs. So he could charge a high price and they would buy. I think he made 165K in 10 days, which is really nice. But there are people on the opposite spectrum as well, where they don't have the most power in terms of buying. But it's not short form, it's definitely long form. So they're more warmed up to the creator. What would you do to kind of market them? Because you kind of have to assume that they don't have an audience almost, because you have to juice their audience out in a way. Like, okay, only these much people would be able to or willing to pay you money. And then you have to go like the free route, the free to paid route, probably. So walk me through your tactics of what would you do to get like maximize impact of a YouTuber that is like that, and also how we could grow the business without necessarily having to rely on YouTube?
Well, first is if you already partner up with a person or if you didn't, because, well, step one is like money isn't the pick. So, like, truly, if you find a good creator that's sitting on gold, like, I'm telling you, that's like, you can do all things right and still make okay money. But I would say the biggest, like, the lever you can pull is just picking the right creator.
Agreed.
But once you already have with him, which is to answer your question, is first, first try selling something and see how it's going. If it's not going well, then you need to pretty much capture more of what you're already doing, more of the audience, right? Because what you did is just you do this small push, so only from this whole audience, only small percentage of people seen it, and even a small percentage of those people actually bought it. So what you're doing is, I personally, what I would do, depending on like how much time and money I have, which is money I will use to hire other people, is to maximize every dollar there is from the audience, is start a free community, get appointment setters to burn through all of those people, and keep promoting like every day pretty much the free community, free guides, whatever. Provide a lot of value inside appointment setters. If somebody is really warm, try selling them. Somebody is like, well, on the fence, they hop on a phone, you try selling them, and that's how I would do. There's definitely like webinars that they can do. There's definitely like links they can do. There's like small launches they can do, but that's, I would say, additional. Most is just pretty much get a person to speak with everybody in the audience to see if they can / won't do something, and market only the mechanism you're selling as the ascension. It's like every video should be about UGC or how to get a better job as a software engineer or whatever your offer is.
Yeah, because especially people that are watching, they're probably like, oh, I want to go to Thailand, so I must see how the experience is like.
Yeah.
And I don't think more than that.
Honestly, man, if it's like a vlog type of YouTube channel, it's entertainment. It's not education, which is the multiples are. We did have a very good calculator on like how much money we can do, and if somebody is an entertainer, they get in like it was pretty much like a math equation. It was not like incredibly accurate, but it was like directionally accurate, like $30,000, like the margin of error, up or down.
Okay.
And they get like if there's somebody that is like actually an entertainer, like the vlog channel, they get one multiple on being an expert. It's just the people that he attracts. It's not like he's not an expert. It's just like people he attracts, they're not looking up to him for information. Exactly. They're looking for him for more entertainment, which is fine. It's less valuable. So you can have a huge audience, which is the 10 or whatever, 10 audience, or like 10,000, 100,000, a million people, but you just get like one, which I just don't recommend. I would just honestly, like if you already have some case studies, if you don't, just take it. You can make decent living, but I would not even take him if you already have case studies and track record.
Yeah, I mean, we will have case studies, but it's like we've already taken him. And when we were taking him, we didn't realize that. So it's like
what I recommend actually is on this beta launch and with like this hyping up, treat it as a discovery period for both of you, which is have some form of a post that checks out how much buying power, how much interest people have in actually learning and spending money. And if there's below a certain threshold, you're just like, cool, man, very nice meeting with you, but we do have something that came up, and it's fine. Like it's capitalism. If you can't make money, it doesn't matter. It doesn't matter how much you like the person. So
we know, Wiktor, that you're the man running the Skool game events in Vegas, which is a pretty big deal. Okay, so you're 22 and you run the Skool games event, and you've been there 8 times, seen all the winners, seen what they're doing right, seeing what they're doing wrong, and you've learned a lot of things, right? So I do have a few follow-up questions that are tactical, but first tell me how the experience...
The event itself is pretty fun. We get people who are from all walks of life to win. There are people who do, last month he was a person who sold his blue collar business for like multiple six figures, and now he's doing this. There are people who is their first business. It's like their first momentum. There are also people who already done huge numbers before, like they've done multiple seven figures. Sometimes even there's one person who've done eight figures, and they're just like, oh, that's where I send my unqualified leads, and that's how they win. I would say it's really amazing to connect with those people and serve them and give them the experience of winning the games. And we are doing like all that's within our power to make it an exciting experience for them. And it's not as hard running those events. Honestly, it's like 10-15 hours of diligent work.
Pretty cool. So you've all obviously noticed a lot of patterns when it comes to people that are successful, people that don't do as well, and people that are just making a living.
Yeah.
A big question that everyone in the community has is like, once we get a person, how do we retain them? Because it's like 5 to 20 times more work to get someone in the group in the first place than to like retain them. Retaining is much easier because you've done all the work. Basically, you've nurtured them, you've warmed them up for so long, they finally click the buy button, but they end up leaving after that. So that's kind of sad. What would be your 5 top retention techniques?
Well, I would say first thing is realizing that I would reframe it. You've said like done all the work. I would say like just got their interest. To be like, hey, what is it about? And especially that's like Skool is built mostly on like monthly subscriptions. We released annual recently, but most of it's still monthly, to say the least. So that makes you, if you can just, before we dive into like how to, let's first answer like why doing it, which is if you can drop your churn from for example 50% to 25%, right? You went from the average people staying 2 months, average person staying 2 months to average person staying 4 months, which is double the money, right? If you go from 25% to now you're at 10%, well, the average stay is not 4 months, but 10 months. We go further, we drop it to 5%, while the average stay is 20 months, which makes your advertising or any other efforts just way easier because your budget, your LTV is just so high, you can afford to spend like whatever, your cost of acquisition is, and it can be pretty high. So that's like the first question, which is huge. That's why if you want to sell your community or, sell your business or whatever you're doing, that's why the churn plays such a huge role. I mean, there have been some communities I've been helping out with that they didn't grow that much. All we focused on for a month was just dropping their churn from like 20% to 15%. And they now can afford to market much more aggressively and with way more confidence.
What's the average churn rate?
I don't know the average on the whole platform because there are many times to like set up your community. Some communities are free off-platform billing and stuff like that. But good standards to follow is anything above 25 to 30% churn is really hard. You should like definitely fix it. 20% I would say is like it's still not the best, but sometimes for a little bit more expensive communities, it's okay. And anything above like 10 to 20, I would say it's good, and anything below 10 is incredible. Huge like thing I would add to it. It really depends on the price. If your price is like $400 per month, if you're not serving like the top of the market, it's pretty hard to do because like, what are you paying $400 per month for? Very few things. Like some people, maybe like cleaning or food delivery or something, but still, it's quite a lot of money. So yeah, that's like the standard.
You're saying the lesser the price, the lesser the churn, or?
Yeah, pretty much. The biggest like drop-off points is if you're charging like the first big drop-off point, I think it's like $20-$30, right? It's like if you are below that, like your churn can be like in single digits. Next drop-off point is about $100, right? If you're below that, well, we've seen some communities that have like $95 or like $110 or whatever with less than 10% churn, which is $1,000 or even more LTV, which is pretty amazing for that, that thing. And then next drop-off point I would say is like this $4.99 thereabouts. It's like the huge thing. Like, and then if you increase above it, the churn really goes high. But there are some people with pretty expensive products, $300, $400 per month with less than 10% churn. It is possible, and pretty much everybody can improve it, at least to some extent.
I think anything below 10 is really good and acceptable, because think about it. If you don't have if you do have 10% churn, actually, you essentially have to replace your entire customer base every single year to be profitable, in theory.
I mean, I wouldn't say it's profitable because, depends how much you're spending and stuff, but is to sustain yourself, to be at the same level of growth. You have to just, it's not a year, it's like every 10 months. Yeah.
Completely.
Pretty much every month you need to 10%, you need to have 10% more, right?
Yeah. Going back to the question, what are your 5 biggest tips to reduce churn?
First is onboarding calls, which is hopping on a call, either depending on your scale, either one-on-one or group call, and explaining people like why did they join and how it is connected to their goals, especially if you get the notes from a sales team or they fill out some form before the call. It's really helpful. Next is like what they have tried and failed at. Really address their concerns. And last is to like guide them through next steps. Like, hey, best next steps to take after this call is to go, add to your calendar to those 2 meetings, show up on them. Next is go to this video, watch it with me, and get people again to take action ASAP. So that's one. Second is some form of like removing complexity, removing the delivery, which is
Removing
outlining.
overwhelm.
Exactly. I remember the project that we were working on, it had a lot of moving parts to it. We've seen even in our case, in Skool games, we went from having like 2 free course per week to just having 1, and our churn dropped. And we've seen that in other communities as well, which one of my friends, Daniel, he in his community, he went from having, I think, 5 calls per week to 1 call per week, and his churn dropped, which is pretty counterintuitive. People think more, but it actually creates complexity, which brings me to a sub point of that, which is really understand like what are the points somebody needs to hit in their progress to actually get the results. And people overcomplicate it. Like people think it's like they need to write their mindset. No, they don't. It's usually comes from action. I'll give you an example of one of the projects I've been working on before, which is coaching for coaches. I love working on those, which is it was like coaching for coaches, how to do ads, right? We realized that there are only 3 things that mattered for them to, only 3 things from the whole freaking 20 hours. The only 3 of the course, the only 3 things. First, if they have strengthened their offer and they posted. Second is they've actually done those ads. And like we got them to like picture ads, which are relatively simple to do with like a picture of a notepad. And then the picture of like them, like a nice picture of them. They load up the ads and they actually click start spending. And then the third is if they actually show up for any of the review calls. Like they actually, like they send some, because they can load it up, but if it's still not good, they will not get the results. So it's like, first is to get them to like give a real shot themselves, and then they actually get a review. But those are like the activations points in terms of like the progress. But, their customer journey, that was different conversations. So get clear on those 3 points, 3 to 5 points. If you have more than that, you're probably doing it wrong, and remove everything else. And how usually programs progress or communities progress is they start with like a lot and then they trim it down, right? And I mean, if they're like, wise about it, and then they get to like bare bones and then they can add a little bit again and then trim it again. And it's constantly, it's just adding and trimming. Yeah. And most people just stay at the first stage, right? Just add it. And they're like,
In the SaaS world, it's called TTVF, time to first value, where you can get them their first win as quick as possible, ideally in the next first 7 days, ideally, but as quick as possible the first day.
Yeah. Well, which is, time to value is different, is another box of worms, but especially the internal ones are pretty easy to do for one of the projects that Alex was working on. I think that was publishing.com. He had people change their bios on LinkedIn to being like a writer, or I think that was that.
And they made them write a book, 30-page book.
Yeah, something like that. And then for one of the people I was consulting with myself, we got them to change their Instagram bio, because that was like they were doing outreach on Instagram to become sales managers, right? And we just changed it from like a salesperson to sales manager. And that really helped people feel like part of this world. And they were posting that. People were hyping it up. So it improved our engagement by, I think, about 5%, which is quite significant. It was pretty terrible. So we just left it. It's just easy to do a lift when it's pretty terrible. It got some people activated. And that's huge. Just every time they look at it, they're like, I'm a sales manager, not a salesperson. So I got to be real.
Describing an identity, right?
Yeah.
And creating enemies as well. What Sam did with his course, like you are a businessman and the enemy is a civilian, and he used to repeat that inside his things, which is pretty clever.
Yeah, this identity stuff, it definitely helps. It's not end or be all. Some people say it's like it's the only thing. It's really not. Next, I would say is really incorporating those follow up. Like in sales, you follow up less if over time if somebody is unresponsive. In customer success, you follow up more with time if somebody is unresponsive. So understanding that and treating it the same as sales, also not wasting people's time, just like, hey, you gotta watch this video. No, you don't. You gotta take some action. You gotta actually do something. And most of the courses and like communities are too overwhelming. They don't follow up. They just get people in. There's no culture. And the person that's running it is just focused fully on marketing. So that's like most communities. And if you just do like one of the things we talked about, it will be to really transform it. Yeah, and just get people to actually take action and don't watch your mindset videos.
Yeah. I think mindset, I think this was started by Sam, where they put a mindset course inside their course. But yeah, taking action, I think, is much more important.
Yeah, I think like I still haven't like solved this problem myself. Like, how much mindset do you need? But probably you can get away without having a mindset action at all. What you do need is to sprinkle in like with those action steps, like how to think about action steps, and sprinkle a little bit of mindset throughout the course. That's my current thinking about it. I could change my mind in a few months.
That's a good approach. Yeah, that's new. That's something to test out. So again, to summarize your points, the first one would be onboarding calls. The second thing would be to get them to map out your 3 activation points and to get your customers through it.
Yeah, 3 to 5. Whatever you need, pretty much.
Yep. The third thing would be to ascribing an identity to them, like getting them to change the bios and everything. And the fourth thing would be
just remove whatever is not an activation point and be really ruthless about it and create like a good culture around those few things. Like Sam had ring a bell in one of the projects I had. It was just posting this story of yourself. Or when you launch an ad, we had like a saying, just like another one in the keep donating to Google, or just like keep donating to Meta, or whatever it is. There's just like those sayings or those rules. And you're also careful of what do you endorse and what do you remove, and and then I would say the last thing is like creating the post with not a mindset of providing value. Definitely sprinkle some advice. And the community is not about just value itself, but it's about engaging and learning from other people. So before clicking the post button, always ask yourself, like, how would I engage with it? Like, if I see that in somebody else's community, and people are in a lot of communities of other people, so you can apply this mindset. It's like, how would I engage with it? How would I see it other than like, that's cool. Like, that's not really a community. That's like an emailing list. So just focusing on those things before you click publish button. And the last thing, the fifth one, was the keep following up and have, and fight for every person that wants to churn, because that's a person. That's like, that would be like your friend that wants to churn up, and it doesn't require brains. Like, follow-ups is one of those things that you don't need to have a big brain for. All you need is a good character and a good system.
Yeah, but I think just making a list of things you could follow up for helps a lot. So if they're not showing up on calls, they're not ticking off how many courses they're watching or like how much progress they're making there. If they made a post in the wins, if they have their birthdays, like there are a lot of reasons to reach out. But one of the things that you've mentioned right now, like apart from the churn, is that you want to make your post engaging. And I really find that interesting, because this is like a curveball to you. I know Sam started the company because he had his courses on Kajabi, but he had to host the communities on Facebook. So it was really distracting people. But what I'm feeling like right now is that there's this new breed of people that are like the Skool nerds, the Skool enjoyers, or whatever you want to call them, that are on Skool 8 hours plus per day, and they're engaging 8 hours plus per day. They want the fire sign, and they're just like, I think it's distracting them from the main thing. It's also, they're joined like 100 different groups where you
Yeah.
learn from 100 people and all their advice ends up canceling itself. So you end up learning nothing at the end. And they're bragging about the wrong things, like, oh, I engage a lot. I have these many points. So do you think it has gone too far at that point where school itself has become a distraction? And if not, what would you do about it? Like if this does become a problem?
Well, first of all, it's like you're thinking individual. You can make your own choices. And if that's how those people want to spend their time, more power to them. I mean, those, like, don't worry about it. Just, if school becomes too distracting, you can, put some restrictions to it. But for the most part, there are different types of users. And there are different reasons to be on the platform. Those people, a huge part of community is like connection you feel with the members. And those people are actually like creating a good environment. They're welcoming the people. We as a platform and and a lot of our admins do want those people in their community. So it's like you don't need to be one of them, but I was one of those people a while back, and I don't regret it. I didn't have many friends online back then. I only had some sales friends, but I was not, and that really, I was that person for some time, but it was a phase in my life, and now I'm still very engaged in a lot of communities that I enjoy, but it's just a phase, and I don't think school is as distracting as some of the platforms. A big part of it is because of our algorithm is not existent for now. Maybe it will change at some point, but you can also leave a community you don't like. And we had the joke a while back, like, honestly, most people should be in like 1 to 3 communities, and like in how many communities you can actually be in and like get some value, probably 1 or 2.
Exactly.
So just be wise about it, and if somebody is really annoying, just leave the community itself. And
that's a pretty good answer. That's a pretty good answer. Yeah. And I think like you're one of those underground people that's like you do a lot, but you're not online all the time, so people don't know about you. So it's interesting.
Yeah. Well, I have a pretty strong belief that like definitely create longevity in the brand matters. However, like I would much rather wait another 6 months, year, or few years to create content, and then I will have the years of experience, which I already do have to some degree, and not be constantly in people's face. And then once I do create something, I will go really big, and also I will have enough capital and enough power to get to the levels of scale and the standards I want to build. I do think, like, as you know, I've done some things with content as well. And I think once I actually get to it, I really want to be well executed, and I will have a good story, especially the things we're working on now and I will work on in the near future. That will be kick-ass. Yeah, it's my pretty strong belief. I don't need to create it now, but when I do, I'll go really hard. That's my promise to you.
That's pretty interesting to know.
Yeah,
I definitely know you.
Think of it, man. You only need like to invest 20 to 30 million to be like insanely famous. Like beyond your wanting. But you just need to invest it wisely, right? Into team, into people, into whatever. And only can take 2 to 3 years. Definitely, the longer you do it, the better, definitely. But 30 million, so spending about 10 million per year, you can be crazy famous, like B-list celebrity, kind of like Alex or whatever. I'm not saying like Alex is the epitome or anybody can do it, but what I'm saying, if you spend shit ton of money, you can do it. So
that's a good approach.
You can just focus on getting decent amount of money, and definitely it's not like 30 million one day. It's like 100 to 100k per month if you really want to go fucking hard on it, and you build it up, and money can go alongside with it. So probably starting capital, the best is like 3 to 5 million, and with that you can achieve your brand dreams. That's at least my approach. We'll see how it works.
That's cool to know, because now I'm thinking in terms of like if I spend more money, I will get more followers and subscribers, and that is true.
Yeah,
that's a good perspective. Like right after this, I'll put up a budget, increase it, and like just start going harder and stuff, because I am
definitely
I am growing my Instagram, and like I recorded 30-40 short form content, which like just got corrupted in my card, so I'll do it when I move to the next place in like 2 weeks. But it's a good lens to see content from.
If you spend the money, you will get the results. Especially like if your specialization is content, like let's be honest, it will not be wasted. Maybe some rich old guy would like waste this money, but we do content, and especially if your offer is around content, definitely it makes sense.
I think it's pretty easy, honestly, like to create content, just like be in front of a camera, do the things. Like in theory, like we're pretty educated there. So I think it just boils down to pouring in more money, which is, I think I unlocked the bottleneck with you on the call.
Yeah.
But like there is a friend that I bet like $500 who will reach 1,000 followers first. So like I'm pretty sure I'm gonna win that. But
that's great.
I also like you read a lot of sales books. You've started your career as a salesperson, so you've learned from the book and like influence. You've went through any PQ training, and you're pretty good at one-on-one sales, from what I can tell. So, what would be your tips for taking a sale from a cold person that hops on a phone with you to like closing him? And what are like your best persuasion tactics?
Well, that's a pretty big question. Well, what I would say is first understand like where they are in their journey, like in their in their customer journey, and you wanna see the application, prepare before the call, and depending on what type of person they are, how much content they've seen, you ask different questions. And honestly, I would like, if you're starting out, don't worry about any tactics, don't worry about doing advanced things or just like objection handling or funneling objection, because you can definitely get into the rabbit hole of doing that. Just get the basics right. Just like and there are a lot of very simple strategies. As of Skool, we will, because of Alex, and I do believe this framework is amazing. Closer framework, 30-40 minute video. You can learn a lot. You can learn it all, which is like, what brings you to the call? And then, it sounds like you have this problem and you're looking for a problem. And like, what are they doing with it currently? Was the potential solutions they've tried before? Then some form of, painting the vision of what they can do if they actually work with you. And then some form of objection handling. There's definitely way more to it, as you probably know, but 80% of it is just practice your script and those few questions like a lot, and like, you will close some sales. And just drop your expectations for performance in the first like 100 calls and get those 100 calls as fast as possible. Ideally, it's just like a personal recommendation. If you would do a lot of just calling every lead, like you will get really good with it and like overcoming objections and stuff like that. You can do 100 calls like a day. I have this joke with a friend, which is like first step of going from a beginner to being advanced or, intermediate is just decide you're not a beginner. Like decide, just stop watching beginner stuff, stop doing stuff. And just like, what would an advanced person do? Well, they would probably pick up the phone and start dialing, right? So just like just get the reps in any way possible. Even if it's like kind of not the highest return on your time, it is definitely high return on your skill set. Like once you get the skill set, you will be able to, make money easier for the rest of your life. It doesn't matter the setting. You will have the confidence and self-presentation skills to progress the sale, to get that promotion, to ask for that, phone number, whatever you desire. So that's what I would say. Just start doing it and do it as much as possible, at least at the start.
That's good advice for sales.
Most people just focus on like this reframe or this tactic or whatever. But honestly, the best salespeople, the best salespeople always also do that, right? Those advanced stuff because they are advanced, but they just keep the same 5 to 10 things in order. Set a good frame, or like they always look presentable. They always ask those important questions, and they never, quoting Alex, they never skip the basics. And if you do that, you need to, like, sales is not as important as marketing. Like, I'm just between me and you. It's like, if you close like in info between 15 to 30%, like you're good. You need to become like amazing. Just spend your time on marketing. Just focus all your time on marketing. And then, once people come in, you're able to close them. And honestly, 80-20 is just follow the script, like actually in detail, with a lot of conviction, without just pauses or whatever, and have great delivery. And my 2 tips for sounding good is speak slower and be loud. If you do those 2 things, you sound like you know what you're doing. And I also recommend knowing what you're doing, but that's at least the trick to sounding like one.
That's good stuff. I know Iman really liked the product. When you think about it, it's not the best, but it's completely riding off of the marketing. And between like me and you, the VSL sold like more than 50 million, like the YouTube thing he has,
Yeah,
which
yeah.
is insane
I
stuff.
agree. So honestly, man, sales is like if you're running a sales agency or sales team or whatever, like it can only go so far, and it's just like with a mastery curve. Like those last 10%, this is where all the gains happen. Also, it's the harder to build. So get yourself from being to not knowing anything to knowing something and being consistent in like 3 to 6 months. And then after that, only pursue it if you're like interested in it or you see their gains. But in most cases, you should just learn marketing. Like understand sales and master marketing. That's like the real deadly combo. Because then you can just run ads for yourself, close the deal, and like just you have your one person business that can make you like multiple 6 figures per year. Which is like that's pretty neat. And you can do it as long as you want. Like you write your own tickets. But you need to be great at marketing, not great at sales. Being great at sales will not do that for you. Being great at marketing, even if you suck at sales, is better.
What do you think about YouTube and Facebook ads? Like, I'll just give you a brief before like you answer the question, because that's like a very general thing to ask. So I started with video editing, and it's all obviously changed my life. Like the thing about like the job that I got with Iman, I got the job first. I learned editing after, but definitely editing changed my life. I started like making good money with it, like going to nice places, and coming from a not well-off family, it like did a lot for me. And from that, if you remember, I told you I'd get my brother a laptop and teach him editing. Now he's a pretty good editor. He's making $1,000 per month consistently, which is kind of more than his dad makes. So
yeah, which is great.
That's amazing. So it was really fulfilling seeing this in the first place. So I want other people to basically have the same transformation and kind of enable that to get more of that fulfillment. So I was thinking about starting like ads. I would pour like, let's say $3,000 in it, $5,000 in it, and the product would be around video editing. So I would put in like $5,000 in YouTube ads. I would create a product on YouTube, like how you can learn editing, like Iman Ghazi, John Fraser, like Magnets Media and stuff like that. Create a really good offer around video editing, like just know the desires, the pain points, and everything, the basic marketing, we both know it, and then market it to YouTube. So what do you think? How do you think that idea is, and how do you think I should like execute it step by step?
Well, first of all, like 3 to 5K, if you need to get the return on it, is probably not enough money. And I'm just telling you how it is. Like you need at least like 20 to 30 grand to just be like, I'm cool with it. You definitely don't need to spend all, and you will get some returns before it, but that's at least a good mindset to have. That's first. Second is the biggest thing when it comes to any ads, and I'm not an expert on a lot of them. I would say mostly it's like the meta that I've been helping out with is the offer. And because what ads basically is, like on just like first principles, is just getting eyeballs to something. It's just paying to get eyeballs. And what I would say is you need to have a validated offer and like really validated. And usually I recommend starting with organic and building up enough momentum through that. And especially through either comment strategy or group strategy to just build up enough momentum, and also your posting and stuff to build out enough momentum and like cash flow and cash in the bank that when you do ads, you have a validated offer, and then you actually have the money to support it, and you just decide. And I don't recommend, I mean, I do recommend some course, like anything, but what I do recommend on ads is just every month you set a budget for like, whatever you're comfortable with. I recommend like 10 to 30% of whatever you're making this month, or even tapping into your savings at least a little bit at the start, and just deciding, hey, this is my learning budget, and I'm just willing to. I will just spend no matter what. That will really force you to like, okay, I gotta really do it, and then just iterating, being really diligent of what works, what doesn't. And there's a lot of like theory about it. I'm not the master of it, but that's what I would say. But definitely validate yourself on organic first, at least to some extent, and then I would not go for like a direct booking funnel. I'll probably go for like a lead magnet funnel and then just grind because that creates a little bit more. That will just give you shit ton of leads, and if you get leads, well, you can do something with it. You can sell them something. You can get some return. If it's not your main offer, maybe it's consulting. If it's not consulting, maybe it's a referral. If it's not a referral, maybe you can sell them some software, right? You signed up for, right? Like through an affiliate link. You can make some money through it. But if you just do direct, well, if you screw up like 5 calls in a row, that can be like $1,000, which can be pretty painful. And that's just normal. Like you have to have 20% close rate to close one of them. So yeah. Also I would say just some form of a lead magnet so you get a lot of opportunities, and also you can call those people right after.
I have seen like an ad on my YouTube, and it was like 500 rupees, which is like $7, $6. So I've seen that ad quite a few times. Are there like any spying things I can use to like see the conversions and everything?
Yeah, definitely. Just type like there are libraries and there are spying tools. So spying tools are quite pricey, but honestly, like you can just find on Google. Just type in like meta ads spying tool. The first one, I think it's called like adspy.co or something, and then you can use the Google like the Facebook ad library and Google ad library. Those are like the open source for everybody. I don't think it's open source, but like they're open to people. So I recommend doing that, but just that's what I'm saying. Trust yourself that you will figure it out. And yeah. So just you can research and you can steal people's ideas as long as you want. But second thing is you don't know how well they're doing, right? Most people are struggling.
Exactly.
So you may as well just do it yourself. Just instead of asking people, hey, what do you think it will work? You ask the market, which is you actually start doing it.
Definitely. We'll like go and spy on people after this. That's the action plan.
Yeah, that's a good idea. Yeah.
Yep. So you've got a pretty big network now. You've got like you networking with literal multimillionaires, people like me, Sam Evans, Hormozy. And I don't like to believe that is luck. So how do you do that in terms of actionable steps?
Well, actionable steps is, well, try going deep on some topic. Like that's why I did. Try going deep on info. And the better you get at it is the higher your odds of connecting with people who are also deep into it. And I'm not definitely not on the same level as Sam or Alex. But at least the people around me, they see the passion, they see how much I spent on it, the time and the money and the commitment and the reps. So yeah, that's pretty much the best advice. Whoever you want to connect with, just make sure it's within your like ward, right? I probably couldn't get my hands on or almost any music artist, but in info, I can have access to a lot of people just because I'm deep into it. So there's no real hack other than commit to something for some time, and especially I would say then like if like there would be a hack, it's try to meet people in person, whatever it costs. I mean, usually it is a good idea to whatever it costs, just like go to the event, go to the office, or when you get an opportunity, you propose the call, propose the whatever, just like instead of doing a virtual call, hey, I can be in New York in 2 days, right? I've done it a few times, and it's just unforgettable. If you meet somebody in person, you like see how they really are. You usually get more of their time. Usually they open up more. It's like I would say 10 times the connection compared to Zoom. And
in terms of opening up more, and this is like black hat techniques, but you could also make them drunk the first time, and that really puts it on steroids.
You drunk or them drunk?
Both.
Both.
Because
well,
you would open up a lot.
Yeah. Well, I am not a big fan of getting drunk because it's like it like kills part of your mind. It kills part of your mind that's also it shuts down part of your mind that's responsible also for being anxious. That's why it's like the social lubricant, how people say it. What I do recommend is connecting with a person, which is using like opening up yourself, so potentially the other person will open up and meeting them where they are. But honestly, you can only network so many levels like up.
Yep.
Like you have to like I would say like 2 levels up is probably the highest you can go, but you can't go like 10 levels. There's no way like Alex or whoever will be friends with you if you're just like starting out. Like, he will not be friends. Like, it's just not the same word. And I'm not speaking for him. This is just like what I observe. I could be wrong, but yeah, like there's no way like you even now would be mentoring somebody for no reason, no money, whatever. They just like want to be friends. But somebody who's like 1 level above you, or maybe like 2 levels, and what I mean is like, well, in terms of years, they could be like 1 year, 2 years ahead of you. Definitely, you can be friends with him. So just like knowing your actual target. Probably you want to network with like, Alex Becker and like Sam or whatever. In most cases, you probably are not, you don't have enough momentum for them to, So connect with people who, if you're making zero money, connect with people who are making some money, like 2,000, 5,000. Then once you're making that, you can connect with people who are making 20, 30, 50. Once you're making that, you can be people who are making 7 figures. And once you're making like 7 figures, you can jump a little bit higher, but there's just way less of them. That's also another tip. It's like once you are in the room, it's like the room is not that big. So
one big thing that I've noticed is like if you're starting out, the only way to network with people that are way beyond your reach is proximity. Like you either be their neighbors or like you hang out in coffee places they hang out in, and you try to see them there. But online, there's no way you could just text them and they'd reply back. There was a study done where people, like, the biggest indicator of success of how rich someone would be is their PIN code, the area they were born in. So that also goes to show the power of proximity.
Yeah, it is true. The only like hack I was able to find to it, to network with like people who were like way out of my league, I would say, is just do a lot of work for them for free. That's like the only way I know. It's like if you, for example, I have a friend who connected with like Noah Kagan and I think Tim Ferriss, and he just did he did actually 30 to 40 hours of work for free without them knowing or even asking for permission from them. And then he chose just this one target and he followed up with them many times, and they're like, okay, like, dude, like, what's up? Because he just showed so much character and commitment that he was like, well, this guy, at least he's real. I'll put things in perspective. When Alex was hiring an editor, there were about, I think they applied like 1,500 editors or 1,200 editors. And then he put up, like, hey, you guys need to create this discovery project, right? To do it's like, I think, few hours of editing. And only 60 of them completed it. And like only, I think, 20 of them followed up with like good message. And also they had good communication skills and they did do the job to high quality, which is like, he's Alex Hormozy. So that's like, insane. And he has 8 million subscribers and like everybody loves him, and with a disclaimer about it. But if somebody has 100,000, you probably look at like 3 other dudes that you need to beat. The competition is not that high. I've been doing a decent amount of hiring for different creators, and I'm telling you, man, like all you need to do is just do what you're told, do a good job, don't be weird, and have some form of experience, and be committed to your craft. Have good social media, and you can do it. Most people fail on the first thing.
Yeah. When I was applying for Iman, I took, I think, 4 hours to write out a paragraph. So like to apply, 4 hours I was writing out one answer, and I took like 12 hours to complete the entire application. Then I made a 10-minute YouTube video instead of a Loom 2-minute to like apply. Just to show like a lot of effort in that Loom. Like it was so funny. I'll probably share it down the line. I was reading a paragraph from The Way of the Superior Man, a book I know he read. So
which just goes to show that you are committed, and that's probably helped you getting that job. I'm telling you, man, like that's the only trick I know to like real networking. But other than that, I mean, also huge hack, if you can like host events, like, man, it's such a it's pretty hard to like actually do. I was only able to do it because it's school, right? And I'm not like a host or whatever. I'm just, kind of helping out and just facilitating a lot of it. As like if you're like the main point of contact for like the whole event, it doesn't matter if you're like, young or short or whatever. Like people look up to you in just this situation. Like for this few hours, days, whatever, you're the boss and you leave lasting impact, and those people are always like remembering you. So it's like a huge next hack, especially if you make the event good. They always remember you.